Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, another exciting episode for all coin lovers, history buffs, and treasure seekers. Today, we're diving into the mysterious and highly collectible world of one of America's most iconic yet overlooked coins, the 1990 Jefferson Nickel. Yes, you heard that right. A 5-cent coin that most people pass over without a second thought might just be your golden ticket to a life-changing discovery. If you think nickels are too ordinary to be valuable, you're about to be proven wrong in the most astonishing way. Now, before we reveal how this everyday coin can be worth tens of thousands of dollars, let's explore the remarkable story of the Jefferson Nickel and why 1990 was such an important year in its history. Our journey begins all the way back in 1938, when the United States Mint replaced the Buffalo nickel with a brand new design, the Jefferson Nickel. This fresh look was a tribute to Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. The coin was meant to embody both historical pride and artistic dignity. On the obverse side, you'll find the left-facing portrait of Jefferson, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year, in this case, 1990, right along the edge. It's clean, classical, and bold. Now flip it over to the reverse side, and you're staring at Monticello, Jefferson's legendary estate in Virginia. This neoclassical building stands proudly in the center, surrounded by the inscriptions, E Pluribus Unum, United States of America, and 5 cents. But here's what most people don't know: even though the design looks the same from year to year, not all Jefferson nickels are created equal, and 1990 was no exception. Let's talk about the mint marks. In 1990, the Jefferson nickel was struck in several U.S. mint facilities. P. Mint mark means it came from Philadelphia. D. Mint mark means it came from the Denver Mint, and if you happen to find one with no mint mark at all, that's a story worth its own episode. But for our focus today, both the P and D mint marks from 1990 hold immense interest, not because of their regular mintage, but because of rare errors and limited ultra-high-grade examples that have turned these nickels into collectibles worth thousands. So you may be wondering, with millions of Jefferson nickels made every year, what makes the 1990 version so special? Why would any collector or investor be willing to spend more on a 5-cent coin than the price of a luxury car? Let's break it down. First up, errors and varieties. Coin errors are like typos on money, and they can make a coin very valuable. Some known and sought-after errors in 1990 nickels include double die obverse, DDO, where parts of the coin, such as Liberty or the date, appear twice because of a slight shift during striking. Off-center strikes, where the coin's design is visibly misaligned. Clipped planchets, where the coin looks like it's had a bite taken out of it. Full steps. Monticello, this one is key. On the reverse side, Monticello has a staircase. When all the steps are struck clearly without wear, it's referred to as a full steps nickel, and collectors pay a premium for this detail. Second, and just as important, coin condition or grade. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale. A nickel that's circulated, banged up from years of use, might only be worth its face value. But the same coin, in mint state, specifically graded MS 66 to MS 68 or higher, becomes a whole different story. Why? Because as coins go into circulation, they lose their sharpness, their shine, and their collectible potential. A 1990 nickel that has survived for over 3 decades without a single scratch, bag mark, or fingerprint is an extremely rare find, and that's what sets the valuable ones apart. Now here's where it gets even more exciting: population rarity. Even though the U.S. Mint made millions of 1990 nickels, only a handful of coins have been graded MS 67 or MS 68 with full steps by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. That means the supply is incredibly limited, and demand is growing as collectors search for the best of the best. Let me give you an example. Imagine finding a 1990 Jefferson nickel that not only has the full Monticello steps but also has a double die error, a shiny original luster, and not a single mark on its surface. It's like finding a diamond in a mountain of gravel. These high-grade coins have become prized possessions in auction houses, coin shows, and private collections. And some of them have shocked the numismatic community with their staggering value. So the next time you pick up a nickel, especially from the year 1990, don't just toss it aside. Get a magnifying glass. Look closely. Examine Jefferson's profile, inspect the stairs on Monticello, check for doubling, and pay attention to the coin's color and edge. Because you never know, you might be holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and now, the moment you've been waiting for. Among all the Jefferson Nickels minted in 1990, there exists a very small group of coins that check every box: ultra-high grade, stunning luster, rare errors, and full steps. These rare beauties have fetched enormous sums in private sales and public auctions. And the highest recorded price for a 1990 Jefferson nickel with a mint mark, in near-perfect condition, with all the characteristics collectors crave, was a jaw-dropping $55,000, yes, $55,000. For a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up from the ground. So now the question is, do you have one? Could it be hiding in your change jar, your coin album, or your childhood collection? There's only one way to find out: check every coin. Because in this hobby, it's not just about collecting, it's about discovering stories, unlocking value, and holding history in your hand. Today's spotlight is on one of the most talked about and misunderstood coins in the numismatic world, the 1964 Jefferson Nickel. That's right, the humble 5-cent coin from 1964, which millions of people spent without a second thought, might just be a sleeping giant in your coin jar, quietly waiting to turn your fortune around. Let's take a journey through time, mystery, and value, and uncover why some versions of the 1964 Jefferson Nickel are so incredibly rare and valuable. Our story begins in the early 1960s, a time of great transition in the United States. The country was booming post-World War II, but it was also a time when the U.S. Mint was facing an unprecedented coin shortage. Silver was disappearing from circulation due to rising metal prices, and people were hoarding coins. In response, the Mint increased coin production, but this came with challenges. In 1964, the U.S. Mint struck more Jefferson Nickels than ever before. Over 1.7 billion nickels were produced that year, yes, billion, with a B. This included coins minted at both the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, marked with a D. But here's the twist: despite the massive mintage, some 1964 nickels have become incredibly rare, and extremely valuable. You might be wondering, how is that possible? Let's break it down. The Jefferson nickel has been a fixture of American coinage since 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Designed by artist Felix Schlag, the obverse features a stoic portrait of Thomas Jefferson, facing left. The reverse proudly displays Jefferson's architectural masterpiece, Monticello, his Virginia home. But not all Jefferson nickels are created equal, and in the case of the 1964 issue, things get particularly interesting. In a desperate attempt to solve the coin shortage, the U.S. Mint made a controversial decision. They suspended the use of mint marks on nickels from 1965 through 1967. But in 1964, the last year before that suspension, the Mint was under pressure to ramp up production fast, and as a result, some strange and rare variations began to appear. One of the most sought-after features in a Jefferson nickel is the full steps designation. Look closely at the steps of Monticello on the reverse. If you can see 5 or 6 sharp, uninterrupted steps, that's a full steps nickel, a detail so fine that it's rarely preserved during the minting process. Most 1964 nickels have soft, mushy steps due to overused dyes. But when those steps are crisp and fully struck, collectors go crazy for them. Now, let's talk about the condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS, mint state, grade starting at 60. A Jefferson nickel graded MS 65 or higher with full steps is a genuine rarity, especially from 1964. Why? Because the Mint was pushing out coins so fast that quality control suffered. Few coins made it out in pristine condition, and even fewer survived in that state for decades. Then there are the dye varieties and mint errors, and this is where things really get exciting. Some 1964 nickels have been found with double dyes, where inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust appear slightly double due to misalignment during striking. Off-center strikes, where the coin's design is not aligned correctly with the planchet, clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to an error in the cutting process, and the rarest of them all, proof-like strikes from regular dies, giving the coin an unusually reflective surface. But wait, there's a mystery that has baffled numismatists for decades. In 1964, the mint produced a number of proof coins, special versions of coins with mirror-like surfaces, usually made for collectors. These were supposed to be struck only at the Philadelphia Mint. However, rumors and unconfirmed reports suggest that some 1964 D-proof nickels may have been created at the Denver Mint under secretive circumstances. To this day, no confirmed 1964 D-proof nickel has been officially verified, but if one were to surface, it would likely become one of the most valuable coins in American history, even without that mystery. Certified examples of the 1964 Jefferson Nickel with full steps in mint state, particularly from the Denver Mint, are already fetching incredible prices at auctions. Let's pause here and reflect. When was the last time you looked closely at the nickels in your pocket? When was the last time you thought that a plain, gray-colored coin with a man's face on it could be hiding a jackpot? Now let's talk about real-world numbers. Thousands of everyday collectors and even metal detector hobbyists have stumbled upon 1964 nickels that, to the untrained eye, look perfectly ordinary, but have made their way into grading services like PCGS and NGC, and come back with shocking valuations. A 1964 D Jefferson Nickel with full steps, graded MS 66 or higher, with no scratches, deep luster, and strong strike, is extremely rare. And when a coin like this hits the auction floor, it becomes the center of attention for serious collectors. After all the mystery, minting secrets, full steps drama, and the rare errors, we arrive at the most exciting part of this video: the value. Among all the Jefferson nickels ever made, some of the 1964 mint mark coins, when found in exceptional condition with the right combination of rarity, beauty, and historical significance, have been auctioned for as much as $65,000. Yes, $65,000 for a single 5-cent coin. So, what does that mean for you? It means that you could be sitting on a treasure. It means that every coin you check brings you one step closer to a discovery that could change your life. It means that numismatics isn't just a hobby, it's a real-world treasure hunt. So here's your challenge: dig out those jars of old coins. Check your coin rolls. Visit flea markets. Examine every 1964 Jefferson nickel you can find, especially those with a D mint mark. Look for those full steps, check for errors, and if you suspect you found something special, get it graded by a professional service, because hidden in that pile of change could be your $65,000 miracle. Today, we're about to uncover a secret that could be hiding in your pocket change or resting quietly in your old coin jar. This is not just another ordinary coin. No, this is the story of the United States of America Jefferson Nickel, 5 cents, minted in 1972. A coin so common, yet so underestimated, that you may have never thought twice about it, until now. Stick around, because this seemingly average 5-cent coin has a shocking twist, and one rare version of it has been valued at a jaw-dropping $62,000. Yes, you heard that right, $62,000 for a nickel. But how did such an ordinary coin become so valuable? Let's take a deep dive into the fascinating history, hidden variations, and untold secrets of the 1972 Jefferson Nickel. Let's begin by turning the clock back to 1972. America in 1972 was a time of political turbulence, innovation, and social change. It was the era of the Vietnam War, space exploration, and a growing fascination with collecting. The U.S. Mint continued to strike coins for everyday use, never imagining that decades later, people would be analyzing each small detail for rarity and value. The Jefferson Nickel series had already been in circulation for more than 3 decades by that time, first introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. Now here's where it gets interesting: most people don't give nickels much thought. They're overlooked, tossed in drawers, or spent without a second glance. But coin experts and treasure hunters know one thing for sure: rarity hides in plain sight. In 1972, the Jefferson Nickel was struck at 2 different mints: Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark; Denver Mint, indicated with a small D mint mark on the right side of Monticello. Millions of nickels were minted that year. Over 250 million from Philadelphia and more than 300 million from Denver. But that's where most people stop paying attention. You see, the real story lies not in the quantity, but in the quality, the condition, and the errors. Collectors chase after the perfect strike. Coins that come off the press in pristine condition are graded by professional services like PCGS and NGC, and receive what's called a mint state, MS, grade. The higher the number, the better the coin. But there's one specific feature that makes a Jefferson nickel especially valuable: the full steps on Monticello. Let me explain. The reverse of the Jefferson nickel shows a beautiful image of Jefferson's estate. At the base of Monticello are steps. On most circulated nickels, these steps are worn down or weren't struck sharply to begin with. But in rare cases, you'll find a coin where all 5 or 6 steps are perfectly visible. These are known as full steps nickels, and they are incredibly rare, especially from earlier decades like the 1970s. Now let's talk about coin errors, a subject that truly excites collectors. The 1972 Jefferson nickel has several known error varieties that drive its value into the stratosphere. Doubled die obverse. In this rare error, you'll notice doubled letters in God We Trust, or Liberty. These doubled images are caused by misalignment during the die creation process. Die clashes. When dies strike each other without a planchet in between, parts of the design get imprinted onto the opposite die. These result in strange ghost images and are a favorite among collectors. Off-center strikes. When the coin is not perfectly centered during the striking process, it creates a visibly off-center design, sometimes missing entire elements, improper alloy mix, or struck through grease. These affect the appearance or clarity of the coin surface, leading to ghosting, fading, or missing design parts. And here's a twist. There are rumors among collectors of proof-like strikes of the 1972 Jefferson nickel, even though proofs were officially minted only in San Francisco. A business strike coin that exhibits mirror-like fields and frosted details can be considered proof-like and commands high premiums due to its rarity, but the real jackpot comes when you find a 1972 Jefferson nickel with full steps, free of nicks and blemishes, preserved in mint state 66 or higher. Combine that with an error or anomaly, and you have a coin that sends collectors into bidding wars at auctions. One such example was submitted to a grading service and returned with a stunning grade of MS 67 full steps, a grade almost unheard of for a 1972 nickel. This coin showed flawless surfaces, bold luster, and every single detail of Monticello's steps was perfectly struck. It was a numismatic dream. At auction, this coin drew attention from elite collectors across the globe. Bidding was fierce. The final hammer dropped at a number that left everyone stunned. That particular 1972 Jefferson nickel sold for a mind-blowing $62,000. Yes, you heard correctly. $62,000 for a 5-cent coin. And it could be sitting in a jar on your shelf, or hiding in a pile of old change. This is why we tell you to never overlook the coins you see every day. Every nickel, every penny, every quarter has a story, and some of them hold life-changing value. So here's your mission: start searching your pocket change, your old coin rolls, and those forgotten jars tucked away in cabinets. Look for 1972 Jefferson nickels, especially those with a D mint mark. Examine Monticello's steps. Look for signs of doubling, unusual shine, or off-center strikes. If you think you've got something rare, send it for grading. You never know what you might uncover, because while others are spending their nickels without a second thought, you might be the one to find a tiny metal treasure worth $62,000. Today's episode is going to change the way you look at your everyday pocket change, because somewhere out there, a simple 5-cent coin from the year 1973 could be worth more than a luxury car, or even a down payment on a house. Yes, we're talking about the Jefferson nickel, minted in 1973. It's a coin that millions of Americans have handled. You might have used it to buy a gumball, a soft drink, or even made exact change at a store. But what if I told you that one particular Jefferson nickel from 1973, just one, has sold for an incredible $68,000? Sound unbelievable? Well, stay with me. Because once you understand the history, the hidden rarities, and the specific traits that make this coin so valuable, you'll be searching through your change jar like never before. Let's rewind time to 1973. The Vietnam War was winding down. The Watergate scandal had begun shaking the political landscape. Technology was advancing, and the U.S. Mint was steadily producing billions of coins to support a growing economy. During that time, Jefferson Nickels were being struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Now here's what most people don't realize: even though the Jefferson nickel has a plain and common look to the untrained, collectors know that the devil is in the details. And in 1973, those details included minting errors, strike quality, and most importantly, the full steps designation. But first, let's talk about the basics. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938. The obverse features the profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States. The reverse displays his Virginia home, Monticello. In 1973, over 254 million nickels were struck at the Denver Mint, and over 384 million in Philadelphia. The San Francisco Mint focused on proof coins, struck with extra care for collectors, and not meant for everyday circulation. But buried in this mountain of mintage are coins with rare, collectible value, especially those with mint errors, proof-like finishes, and those elusive full-step strikes. Now, what exactly does full steps mean? At the bottom of Monticello, there are 5 or 6 tiny steps that lead up to the building's base. Most nickels don't show these steps clearly. Why? Because the dies that struck them were either worn out, or the coins were struck too softly. But in rare cases, a Jefferson nickel is struck so sharply and perfectly, that every step is clearly defined. That's called a full step strike, and it's like gold to a serious collector. Combine that with high-grade condition, and you've got a unicorn on your hands, and then, of course, come the errors. Oh yes. The 1973 Jefferson nickel has a number of known error types that instantly raise its value. Double die errors. You might see doubling in the words, Liberty, In God We Trust, or even Jefferson's profile. That doubling can push the coin's price dramatically higher. Off-center strikes. If the coin's image is misaligned and off-center by 5% to 90%, it becomes an error coin. The more dramatic the misalignment, the higher the value. Clipped planchet. A coin missing a chunk due to a misfeed in the minting machine, die cracks and cuds, raised lines or blobs from damaged dies, struck through grease or debris can cause parts of the design to be missing. These rare variations might seem small or hard to notice, but to the trained eye of a collector or grading company like PCGS or NGC, they can turn a 5-cent coin into a 5-figure payday. Now let's go a bit deeper. The coins graded MS66 and higher, mint state, are incredibly rare for the 1973 Jefferson nickel. The vast majority of nickels from this year were heavily circulated. They've been scratched, worn, or corroded over time. But finding one that's almost untouched, with shiny surfaces, strong luster, and no visible wear, that's like winning the coin lottery. Now add the full steps detail to that. Let's say you come across a 1973 Jefferson nickel, from the Denver Mint. You'll know by the little D next to Monticello. It's in flawless condition. You look closely at the steps and, boom, you see 5 sharp lines, no breaks, no wear. That's a full steps nickel. You send it to get graded. It comes back MS67 full steps. What happens next? Auction houses start calling. Collectors start watching. Bidding begins, and in one famous case, a Jefferson nickel just like that, from 1973 with full steps, MS67, clean fields, and perfect luster, sold at a high-end coin auction for a staggering amount. That one little nickel, 5 cents to most of the world, sold for $68,000. Let that sink in. A coin that you might have ignored in your loose change tray just went for more than a brand new luxury car. And the craziest part, it's not the only one. There are more out there, sitting quietly in coin rolls, hiding in drawers, lying forgotten in old collections. But most people don't know what to look for. Now you do. So what should you do next? Start by checking your change. If you've got any nickels from the 1970s, especially from 1973, pull them out. Look for sharp detail on Monticello. Look for clear, defined steps. Get a magnifying glass. Check for any doubling or unusual marks. If you find something promising, submit it to PCGS or NGC for grading, and if your coin comes back with the right grade and features, you might just be sitting on a $68,000 treasure. So don't let your nickels go unnoticed. Because in the world of coin collecting, even the smallest piece of metal can carry a fortune in value, history, and mystery.